Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to the last of my April Western RPG reviews. You guys have probably been waiting for this one for a long time, and in a way, so have I. I have gone through all of the Western RPGs in my collection. There was one more I was hoping to get, but it didn't happen. But to be honest, I don't know how it can compare to the one and only Wretched Country by the folks at Red Room. The Red Room. Sorry. I had to take my time through this one because I was just enjoying it so much. I didn't want to rush through it. I didn't want to skim it or pass over anything. And, I got to talk with Miguel and Sylvia last Friday, and it helped me clarify a few things about what they're shooting for when it comes to a Western RPG. And I think their core RPG meshes perfectly with this and what most folks, as far as I can tell, are actually looking for from a Western RPG. Sorry, something under my table was in the way. For the most part, I feel that a Western RPG is probably not going to last a long time, although Kelly Foote would probably disagree with me. I think his Deadlands game has been going on for well over 3+ years now. I envy the guy and the guys in his group. I would absolutely love to do that, but the Western RPG genre is a very niche group of folks that want to relive and experience everything that a Western has to offer. And this game comes through in spades. It's got everything you need, whether you want to run just a semi-historical, gritty, man-to-man sort of Western, all the way up to a Western with, vampires and werewolves and cultists and demons and Cthulhu-esque critters and adversaries and things like that. This one is absolutely the best. This is literally, in my opinion, one of the most endearing love letters to the Western genre and Western RPGs I've ever come across. I want to read a little something, if I can find my bookmark, that just sort of, for me, just, I was on page 11, and it hit me as soon as I started getting into it, and I'm just like, this sums it all up. Throughout the years, the American Western evolved and adapted to reflect changing cultural and social landscapes. It explored complex themes of race, gender, and the impact of civilization on the untamed wilderness. Yet at its core, the classic American Western remained a celebration of the indomitable spirit and resilience of those who dared to tame the frontier. To me, that says it all in one perfect paragraph. Miguel is a superb writer, possibly one of the best out there, living, even amongst those who are no longer with us. He's way up there. I can't wait to read more from him, but I'm also going to be reading some other books from some of his co-conspirators, OGGM, I'm talking about you, and a few others out there that have helped along the way. So let's get into quickly, because I'm not going to run this one as long as the last one, just because it's not really necessary. Right off the bat, you've got the Western anti-heroes. The game is designed to be more of a gritty anti-hero game. You can try to run the classic white hats, but you're probably going to have a little bit more fun if you take that white hat off and put on the old black hat. The bad guys are always more fun and more interesting, even if they're destined to meet an ignominious death, as they usually deserve. But every once in a while, it is fun to mix it up a bit. There are a bunch of new and revised rules to make this more a Western game and change a few things from the core rulebook. The background and origin and life path, again, phenomenal system. Makes it super simple, and you don't have a ton of work to do with 3 or 4 short rolls. You get more than enough to make up your character, whether it be a player character or NPC. The sins and virtues of the Wild West setting. Again, I love their usage of sins and virtues instead of alignment, although I do still favor the alignment system, or at least like to incorporate it, but adding sins and virtues gives you a little bit extra speed in which you can identify the character and highlight their sins and virtues. Magic, again, it's less of what we're used to in RPGs. It's more of a ritualistic. It's going to take time to do your magic. You're not just going to be blasting off magic missiles and things like that, in seconds. This is going to take some preparation and some time, which in my travels in the real world, most real magic tends to be that way, or at least, what's perceived as real magic. The chapter on shamanic rituals gives certain folks a little bit more flavor and a little bit more oomph, when it comes to them being, an adversary or an ally. Carousing in the Wild West is your downtime activities. When you're not playing your characters, you can make a couple of rolls and find out what happened in between sessions, or while your character had some downtime and wasn't on an actual quote-unquote adventure. Wanted level gives you a way to measure the man and determine just how notorious or infamous or even beloved, I suppose, that the character is. There was a nice chapter on pistol duels. What would a Wild West game be without a showdown at sundown kind of thing? And here it breaks it down in a nice fashion so that you can play that out without it being overly lopsided in favor of the heroes or the PCs. STDs in the Wild West. I can't even imagine the kind of research that had to go into writing this chapter, but nice. Not nice to acquire one, or maybe it might seem that way, but nice in the fact that they were willing to go into it and talk about it, because it was a real thing, and most people just sort of gloss over that in today's day and age. Back then, they had ways of dealing with things, but it usually wasn't pleasant, and it probably didn't end well. Wages and gear. I love the fact that Miguel and the folks who wrote Boot Hill actually did the research to find out the prices and didn't just, pull numbers out of their arse to determine how much a thing cost. Everything is in coinage. It's usually, 10 cents for a shot of whiskey, that sort of thing. $1 went a long way back then, unlike what we're going through now. And they really did probably actual research and, scouring through things like the old Sears and Roebuck catalogs of the time. Not an easy thing to do these days, but absolutely necessary. I've seen too many RPGs, especially Westerns, where the prices were just, based on like the 1990s or the 70s, depending on when it was written. And you could just tell it wasn't accurate at all. I know from experience talking with my grandparents and my dad that the prices for things were, even in the 50s and 60s, were unbelievable compared to any time in my lifetime. So thanks for doing the heavy lifting. On page 82 starts a very concise timeline for the Wild West, which is actually something very helpful and necessary. You need to know when you're going to set your game, and if you're going to use Earth as your basis, it's nice to have a nice concise timeline of what was happening around you in the world. Even if it wasn't happening right next door, you have these events that you can springboard off and use for plot hooks or twists and turns that the characters are going to have to make to avoid or get embroiled in these various events. And again, A lot of research, well done. Hellstone, the setting. I really liked it, but you know, I'm going to do my own. But for a lot of other people, this would be incredibly helpful to have a very well thought out, well written out, and documented town. I would have liked a map, but okay, maybe I missed it somehow. I don't think so, but a nice little map of the place wouldn't have hurt, so that you can plot out, you know, where you're going to have your little shootouts and you know, back alley meetings and clandestine events, and you know, looking for strategic places to set up different encounters. But otherwise, it was really well written, and it's going to bring me into the NPCs that Miguel wrote. A lot of times the NPCs are overly exaggerated characters, very two-dimensional NPCs, but when Miguel creates an NPC, he seems to get to the heart of the matter and give you just enough to make them fully flesh and blood, but he doesn't skimp on any of the details, and really manages to laser focus what this character is all about. Maybe that's partially or in part because of the sins and virtues mechanic that he uses, but it allows you to sum up a character in sometimes just the one word, that being the sin or the virtue. And for that, I was very appreciative, and I'm going to try to, you know, emulate that when I'm creating NPCs. Try to round them out and make it easy for someone else to run the NPC, so that, you know, with an encounter or a first meeting, you can sum them up right quick. Excuse me, just a moment. The four-legged freeloader wants to go, and now he doesn't want to go. You can go now. Why did you point? Yes, see, I knew you wanted to leave. I love him, but he's a knucklehead. In creating the town, he also gave us, you know, the NPCs, the main cast of characters, the opposition, the people that are easily identifiable as the bad guys, the local factions, the wretched factions, including a bunch of work on vampires, werewolves, and some of the other sort of quasi-mystical organizations and cults and things like that live in and around the town of Tombstone. The Traveler Society, various brotherhoods and sisterhoods and priests and covens and all that sort of stuff that don't necessarily have to have any magic or magical effects going on, but just the illusion of, or the sorry guys, the perceived reputation of these various groups that you can use to spook your players in all sorts of ways. And if you are going to use vampires and werewolves and magic and rituals and all that sort of thing, you got a bunch of pre-made factions to work with. Then there are two scenarios, the Wretched 7 and Devil's Country, or maybe there's several more. Maybe I kind of lumped them in mentally. That you know, give you everything you need to start out your game of Wretched Country. If you want to go that route and use the pre-made scenarios or campaign ideas, that's awesome. I tend to want to do it all on my own. Then the last, well, not the last chapter, but the last real game mechanic, which was using a good old-fashioned deck of playing cards as encounter cards and various other mechanics that you can use to break out the cards and help you out as a game master. Obviously, you can also have them at the table if the players are going to get into any sort of gambling, which in the past, that's exactly what I would do, is, you know, have a deck of standard playing cards to play the rounds of poker and see what happens. You know, maybe, you know, throw a couple aces up my sleeve, see if the players notice that they're being swindled or cheated, which is always a great excuse for barroom brawl or, potentially a shootout or a hanging, as was usually the case, followed up by a chapter on Western slang. And I was going through and I was like, a lot of that stuff is never left us, has never left our lexicon, our vocabulary. And I'm noticing here that I must have missed it, but there is a section of maps at the end. I don't know how I could have missed that. Let me take a look real quick. There's also some character sheets. Union Pacific Railway map. I do remember seeing that one. Bacon's military map of America. But no, I didn't actually see a map of Hellstone. But that's okay. It wouldn't be too hard to break out your graph paper and whip up a map of a western town. It's not much different than creating a dungeon map. And there's all the classic Boot Hill maps from the modules to pick apart and copy and emulate. But all in all, I'm glad I waited to the last part of April to review this one, and I guess everything works out and happens for a reason. And to be honest, this was the best. Saved it for the last, and it shines unlike any RPG I've read in easily a couple of years. I've read some stinkers, and you guys have seen me go through them, and there were some out there that were just nostalgic favorites, but for something brand new from someone I had never read a single word from, if you guys are in the mood for something above and beyond, here you go. Wretched Country. All the Wretched books are probably going to eventually end up in my library. Now there's a few that I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to be too keen on and might pass on. Sorry, Miguel, my pockets are only so deep. But I am going to be checking out post-apocalyptic, vigilante genres, mystery genres. I'm going to take a look at their sci-fi later on in the year. But next month, actually maybe not even in May, we might have to wait till June for the Wretched Vigilantes, because next month I will be going over the post-apocalyptic world of Gamma World, and in doing so I may very well see what they have in the way of apocalyptic dystopian future games. If you guys have any recommendations, Miguel and Sylvia, please let me know which one you would recommend, or obviously ones if you really want to bleed me dry. But there you have it, folks. I'm so happy I finally got to read one of their books, actually two this month, and I can't recommend it enough. If you guys have any questions or recommendations or anything else you want to discuss in the comment section, please let me know. Otherwise, you can find me on Discord or during some of our live shows, and maybe we'll talk about it live. But until next time, I will see you guys tomorrow with actually a miniature video, which I haven't done in a while, and I need to clear some stuff off my desk, so I might as well show it off, because otherwise it'll just never leave my desk. And if you could see my desk, you'd see that there's literally enough room for my arms, my elbows, my laptop, and that's it. Everything else is paints or miniatures, and I really, really need help finding a solution on how to store these things, especially big miniatures. Let me give you an example real quick of something like a guy like this. It's like it needs its own box, and I just can't do that. I need something big, deep, padded. If you guys got a recommendation, I'd love to hear it, but that's not what this is about. This is about Wretched Country. Go out and grab yourself a copy before it's too late, before they sell out like hotcakes and there are no more, and all the trees are cut down to make billions of copies of this fantastic RPG. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, have a great day, and you know what I'm going to say, happy trails.